Hello there guys, Ed here, bringing you part 16 of What If Deku Was a Familiar of Zero. Before we get into the video, I'd like to make an announcement. I've seen how much the Archer Part 3 didn't make such an impact as the first two parts, back on Alex's original channel. I can assume that this series isn't as interesting, so therefore I'll discontinue it, but it won't mean I'll upload new series. It just means that I'll upload other series that are still ongoing. And before I forget, I'll be putting a poll later to decide the fate of the Archer Card class series. Now, with no further ado, let's get into it. Where last left off, Izuku and Katsuki were to L'Île Noire to face whoever was there, but was merely a decoy, and now the two are left stranded there with a giant hydra. Meanwhile, the mastermind behind all that, Wards, was at Izuku's mansion. Wards saying, "I'm here to repay my debt." Inko, being a hospitable person that she is, she would say, "Please come in." Ward's grin grew as he heard those words. Meanwhile, in Romalia, the UA students in their hero costumes were instructed to help evacuate the civilians, while the teachers helped out Romalia's army in defeating the enemy troops. But with All Might and Endeavor fighting in the front line, Pupitorio, as well as everyone there, could sign relief, for the enemy was struggling to maintain control of Romalia's territory, and not to mention they were scared of the number 1 and number 2 heroes. Giulio, surprised, he would say, "Wow, I never knew that Izuku's father was this strong." Louise would say, "Giulio, for the last time, he's not Izuku's father, he's his mentor," which is a given that Izu will be as strong as him, if not surpass him entirely. Giulio, confused, "Oh, I see. Speaking about Izuku, you might want to open a portal and bring him and that Katsuki guy here." Louise, agreeing, she would say, "Okay, but I need time." Back with Izuku and Katsuki. The two tried their best to avoid the hydra, while Izuku ended up slicing the heads off, and now it had 150 heads. And after whole slicing, now it has 300 heads, because Izuku just sliced the fresh batch of heads. Katsuki, pissed off, exhausted, and firing his gauntlets. "Could you cut it off with this head slicing thing? Can't you see it's not working?" Izuku, a bit exhausted, he would say, "It's not like anything else we tried before worked either. We just need to find a way to kill it for good. And if I remember correctly, back in middle school, we had some lectures about mythology, and in Greek mythology, Hercules sliced off the heads while someone else burned the wound, so it couldn't regrow anymore." Katsuki, confused, "Wait, you mean to say that we actually study these things in middle school? Why don't I remember any of them?" Izuku, giving him the look, he'll say, "Yeah, geez, I wonder why." "Oh wait, because you and I were always causing trouble? And by that I really mean you causing problems for me." Katsuki, furious, "And you could have said something earlier?" Izuku, rubbing the back of his head, "Yeah, probably I should have. But on the other hand," while he smirks, "it seems that the Hydra has been having trouble keeping focus with all those heads. Which means," Katsuki, grinning, "it's gonna be distracted, which give us time to kill the damn thing." The two did what they planned, and after around 30 more minutes, the Hydra was down to its last head. Izuku tried and tried, but he couldn't slash it off, nor could Katsuki explode it off with his concentrated explosions. Though saying, "Hey, partner, I think that neck is protected by a powerful magical barrier, which activated as soon as it couldn't grow any more heads." And before Delph can continue what we wanted to say, the Hydra started to shoot venomous acid from its mouth, which made Izuku and Katsuki retreat. Katsuki, somewhat scared, "What the fuck was that?" Delph, "Yeah, I think I should have mentioned that hydras, when threatened to the point it's angry or scared, it starts shooting poisonous acids from its mouth. And if you breathe it in too much of the gas that it produces, it might kill you." Katsuki, angry, "And you couldn't have said something earlier, you damn chunk of metal." Izuku, trying to calm them down, he'll say, "Alright, I'm lucky that I included a gas mask with my hero suit while he's putting on his mask on." Katsuki, I want you here to assist me with your explosions. How long on your gauntlets will be full? Katsuki, he would say, "Tch, damn nerd. What are you planning?" Izuku saying, "Kachan, just tell me." Katsuki, he would say, "Fine. One is full, but the other one is still need a bit." Izuku would say, "Good, in that case." He was cut off by the sudden appearance of a portal from behind the hydra, which Julie and Louise were getting out from. The hydra took notice and started to attack them. Izuku, scared and giving Katsuki his mask, he would say, "Kachan, take this, and make distractions ASAP." Before Katsuki could have the time to ask, Izuku zoomed by and saved the two while Katsuki made distractions, which made the hydra follow him, and once the two were safe, Izuku spoke up. Izuku, hugging Louise, he would say, "Louise, thank God you and Julie are okay." Louise, a bit muffled due to the fact of her face being in Izuku's torso, she would say, "That's my line." Julio, shocked, he would say, "What in the name of the sacred pentagon is that thing? And why are there so many heads on the ground?" Izuku saying, "I don't have time to explain. Louise, I need you to use your dispel on Delph so I can kill that thing." Louise nodded and she started to chant. While Izuku was checking if Katsuki was fine, and once the spell was ready, Izuku used Black Whip to pull Katsuki away from the hydra and delivered the final blow, which finally killed it. But Izuku collapsed to the floor unconscious. Louise, scared for him, she would say, "Izuku!" And before she could try to go there, Katsuki stops her in her tracks. Katsuki, he would say, "Stay here, it's dangerous over there. I'll grab him." Louise and Julia were confused on that statement, but they were snapped out of their thoughts as soon as Katsuki arrived with Izuku on his shoulder. Julia, concerned, he would say, "What happened to him?" Katsuki, a bit pissed, he would say, "The damn idiot forgot to take his mask with him." Louise, confused, she would say, "What does that have anything to do with him being unconscious?" Delph, speaking up, he would say, "It's true. Since he forgot to put the mask on, he probably has that poison gas in his body. But on how much, that I do not know. We better bring him to that Momorense girl. She probably knows what to do." Louise didn't hesitate for a single moment to teleport him to the Magical Academy, and leaving him in Momorance's care, with her assuring them that he is in no danger, and he only needs time to rest, while the antidote will take care of whatever poison was in his body. Katsuki, speaking up, he would say, "Well, since now that's taken care of, let's head back to your mansion." Louise was confused on that statement, and Julio spoke up. "There's a war going on in Romalia. We need to go there." Katsuki, annoyed, he would say, "Pretty face, just shut up. Don't you get it? It was all a decoy. They want to get rid of the nerd because he was the main threat. Not only that, apparently someone had a grudge towards him just because the nerd didn't finish the job." Louise would be more confused, and Katsuki continued, "You heard me. According to the bastard, he knows everything about Izuku. And the nerd referred to the man as a traitor." Julio, confused on that statement, he would say, "That's the first I've heard something like that. You said Izuku called him a traitor? What did he look like?" Katsuki, thinking really hard to remember, he would say, I don't remember much. But he had a long gray hair, and he was missing an arm. And he had this thing planned from the start." Louise, upon hearing the description of the man, flashbacks played in her mind, and she plopped to the ground with her eyes wide, realizing who the man was. Louise, in shock, she would say, "He's right. We need to go to the mansion." Julia, speaking up, "I'm confused. Who is this person?" Louise, very angrily, she would say, "He was the reason why Tristane and Albion went to war in the first place. The man that exposed Queen Henrietta's affair with Prince Wales, and the one that was responsible for taking his life. It was Lord Wards, former captain of the Griffin Knights of Tristane." Once Julie understood why they had to go, Louise made another portal and headed towards the mansion, only to find out it was destroyed. They rushed to the collapsed mansion to see if the people that were left behind were still under the rubble. Luckily, everyone were okay aside from some minor injuries, except for Agnes and Siesta. They were injured and knocked out. Thanks to Sato, he managed to keep most of the rubble from falling on the rest of them with his back. Mineta used his sticky balls to keep up the little dome made from the same rubble, so they wouldn't have crushed underneath it. Louise, happy to see that they were safe, she asked what happened. Nezu saying, Miss Valier, Mr. Bakugo, and Giulio, I'm glad to see you're fine, but where's Mr. Midoriya? Louise, she would say, don't worry, Principal Nezu, he's fine now. But what happened here? Nezu saying, a man came here claiming that he was in charge to keep us safe if something went wrong. But Siesta recognized him and took Mrs. Midoriya and little Eri. That's when Lady Agnes arrived and he wrecked the place, but as you can see, we're mostly fine. Louise tearing up, I'm sorry, this was all our fault. We should have made sure that... Nezu interrupting Louise, she would say, no, Louise, that's not your fault. You couldn't have predicted this outcome. That said, we should head to a safer place so that the injured may recover. Louise thought of the only place that was actually safe for them in this situation, the Magical Academy itself. So she made a portal and everyone went there. After arriving at the destination, there was a huge commotion going on from the dorm room, which is where Izuku was resting. But when Louise and the others arrived, they saw Izuku clinging to consciousness trying to get to the mansion. Momoransi, she would say, Louise, thank goodness you're here. Izuku, still having trouble breathing due to the effects of the poison gas. Louise, I need to... Louise hugging Izuku with tears going down her cheeks. Izu, why do you keep on doing this to me? Izuku, still having trouble breathing. Sorry, I can't stand not doing anything when people I care about are in danger. I need to... Louise acting tough. Listen here, mister. I want to remind you that I'm your wife and master. And I'm ordering you to relax. You are injured. You have trouble breathing and need time to recuperate. Before Izuku could say anything, Louise interrupted him. Louise saying, I get it. You need to save everyone. But who will save you? Stay here and relax. Don't force me to do it. Izuku was about to say something, but Louise interrupted him once again. Louise, with tears in her eyes, she would say, Izuku, please, please, I'm begging you, rest up. At least for a little bit. We can take care of things for a change. Izuku still having trouble breathing, he would say, the mansion. We have to get there before... Louise crying, Izuku, it's too late. It's too late, Izuku. Wards got there before we did. But unfortunately they took Mother and Eri-chan. Izuku was so shocked that he dropped to his knees, having a mental breakdown, while thinking all the possible outcomes. As that was going on, One for All was activating on its own. Izuku, out of rage, he slammed his fist to the ground, which caused the entire Magical Academy to shake violently. And the magical barrier protecting the academy had a huge crack in it, which was visible from the outside. Once Izuku calmed down, thanks to Louise embracing him before he could slam his fist on the ground again, Louise spoke up. Izuku, we will save them, but I need you to rest because you are injured. Momoransi butting in, she would say, and not to mention the antidote still hasn't kicked in yet. The more you move around, the more you'll spread the poison. And Louise would say, and besides, we have an advantage. Knowing how Wards operates, he won't do anything to them unless he knows that you are watching. Katsuki saying, what the fuck? How do you know that? Louise would say, simple. Back when Queen Henrietta entrusted me with the mission of getting the letter from Prince Wales of Albion, Wards was working with Reconquista, and by the time Izuku came to save me, Wards had 3 objectives. The first 2 were to kill the prince and retrieve the letter, Katsuki very confused, and he would say, and that is important, why? Louise acting all sus, she would say, if you had let me finish, I was getting to that. Katsuki annoyed, he'll get like, yeah, get to the point already. Louise continuing, anyhow, the third objective was me. He wanted to marry me. Then Izuku barged in, church, and saved me. And he also sliced off his dominant hand. Katsuki was laughing. You mean to say that this guy is just petty? And he started this whole thing just because the nerd humiliated him and married you? Louise was dumbfounded and she would say, yes, I think that's the case, I suppose. Katsuki grinning ear to ear. Good. Nerd, you can take your time. Well, I'll have fun tearing this guy a new one. Izuku not having any other choice, he did what he was told. And from there, he started to come up with multiple plans of attack without anybody realizing. Afterwards, Louise, Julie, and Katsuki went to Romalia via portal, leaving Izuku behind for the time being. Back at Romalia, the students, with the help of Aizawa, managed to fully evacuate Romalia's citizens, including Pope Vittorio, as Lord Vittorio was telling Aizawa on their plan of action. A portal opened, revealing a Louise, Katsuki, and Giulio. Pope Vittorio would say, Giulio, Louise, and you? Thank heavens you're fine. Where's Izuku? Giulio saying, Your Holiness, Izuku is currently at the Magical Academy for treatment. He was poisoned, but he'll recover. What's the status? Vittorio saying, current status, enemy forces are retreating. It seems that all might and endeavor being here is a blessing. If it continues like this, we might win. Louise interrupting Vittorio, she would say, what about Mother and Eri-chan? Did anyone see them? That statement caught the attention of the UA students and Aizawa, and Vittorio being a bit more confused. And he would ask, no, why would they be here? Katsuki, having all sus, he would say, alright, what's your name? Listen up. This whole thing was a trap. And we fell right into it. Bottom line is, whatever's going on down there is merely a distraction. Vittorio was shocked. Aizawa entering the conversation after overhearing everything. Well, that explains on why it seems too easy. My guess is that they want to tire us out and then attack us while we are tired. That's clever on their part, or very foolish. Kazu saying, Oi, Mr. Aizawa, have you guys seen Auntie Inko or the brat? Aizawa shook his head. Vittorio, what do you mean, child? This is merely a distraction. Then, what's actually going on here? Katsuki, irritated. First off, I have a name. It's Katsuki Bakugo, future #1 hero. Second, as he grins, the mastermind behind the attack is just being petty towards Izuku for stupid reasons. 3, my guess is that this show will go on up until the very moment the nerves arrive, and that's when things will get interesting. Vittorio thinking and talking out loud, he would say, then what do you suggest we do, Mr. Bakugo? Katsuki's saying, simple, find them and kill them before the nerd shows up. Back with Izuku. Since the antidote started to kick in, Momoransi told him that he was free to move, so that the antidote can circulate better in his body. So he picked up Delph, and with full counting at 85%, he left the Magical Academy and ran towards Romalia like a madman. Back at Romalia. After a long game of hide-and-seek, Katsuki managed to find wards, Fukei, and the hostages, Inko and Eri. Then the leader of the army appeared, introducing himself as Aquila, King of the Huns, rather Zero Tsukame's version of Attila. All Might defeated him as if he was nothing special, while Katsuki and some others managed to capture wards and Fukei, and successfully saving Inko and Eri unharmed, and the remaining soldiers surrendered, thus ending the whole war. Fukei died and Wards was apprehended. He was tied up, as Pope Vittorio and the heroes were discussing on what to do. Katsuki was harassing Wards and telling how petty he was. Usual Baku-style bullying. Wards saying, just end me already. so I don't have to hear you blabber. Katsuki smirking, oh, don't worry. You'll get to die, but not by my hands. Before wards can respond, a large boom was heard and the ground shook. Everyone thought it was some sort of attack, but within the debris, Izuku stood in the middle of it, with his glowing platinum eyes. He was pissed. Nobody has ever seen him that angry. Katsuki walking up to Deku, he would say, "Calm down, nerd. I told you. I'll tear this guy a new one. And now he's all yours. Do whatever you want to him. I'll be watching the show." Katsuki stepped aside while Izuku was slowly walking towards wards, with those menacing looking eyes, which made wards cower in fear. But Izuku simply grabbed him by his hair and glared at him. Izuku charged up 25% of One for All and punched him in the stomach as he shouted, "This is for destroying my mansion!" Izuku charged up 50% of One for All and punched in the stomach once again, and he shouted, "This is for causing trouble and this poor excuse of a war!" Izuku charged up 75% and punched him in the stomach yet again, but the shockwave of his punch caused major winds to blow, and he shouted, "This is for harming my friends, family, and making Eri going through this." Izuku charged up 100% of One for All and punched Wards in the face, causing his face to cave in, and the ground behind Wards cracked. Izuku let Wards' hair go as whatever remained from Wards fell to the ground, as Deku silently walked away from the now dead corpse of Wards. Katsuki walking up to Izuku, he would say, "Wow, what was that for?" Izuku, still pissed, he would say, "Finishing the job." We skip to the aftermath of the war. With the mansion destroyed, Class 1A and the rest stayed at Romalia, and they were rewarded for their efforts. Some days later, Izuku spoke with Nezu and the others. Izuku saying, "Principal Nezu, I think we should end the training camp now." Nezu saying, "Is this because what happened?" Izuku responding, "Yes, among other things." All students were sad because they had to leave, and Luciana was sad to hear that Katsuki was leaving. But Izuku reassured them that all would be fine, and that if she wanted, Luciana could go to their world and meet Mitsuki, Katsuki's mother. There was a gag scene of Katsuki not being honest with his feelings, and then the girls planning on going to the beach since in the MHA world, it would have still been in their summer break. And then they invited Louise. Louise saying, "Sorry, but I already have plans," as she looks at Izuku. Nearly getting the wrong idea. "Oh, I see." Izuku saying, "Louise is right. We'll be staying here because we need to be here and help out with the reconstructions, and not to mention upgrades that Principal Nezu already discussed with Pope Vittorio and Queen Henrietta. I guess me and Louise will see a lot of you when we get back. Hopefully we won't miss much." Izuku and Louise said their goodbyes. Then Louise opened a portal for everyone else to pass through. The teachers and the rest of the students returned home, while Izuku and Louise started rebuilding. A little side note, Eri stays with Izuku and Louise, while Inko goes back with All Might. We cut off to the MH side for a bit, since they went to the training camp to the Zero Tsukaima world, somewhere between late June. We don't get to see the Wawa Pussycats. The fight that was supposed to happen never happened, and it was peaceful. Barely any villain activity, if none at all. It seemed too quiet. Time skip to some months ahead. Regular school activities happened as per usual. Class 1A and Class 1B get their provisional hero license, except for Izuku and Louise. The work-study program happens as normal, although the overhaul arc never happens because it happened earlier. And the quirk erasing bullets don't exist. Night Eye still lives. More months passed, and it's October 25th. Aizawa having more of his usual lectures and announcing the cultural festival, and some students ask him when Izuku and Louise are returning. But before Aizawa can answer, he was called to Nezu's office. Once he arrived, he saw Eri, Izuku, and Louise having tea with Principal Nezu. and Louise was carrying two newborns. This is saying, "Ah, Mr. Aizawa, you finally here. Your top students have returned." Aizawa, a bit confused, he would say, I don't want to sound unhappy to see you, but why are you guys carrying babies with you? Are you babysitting or something?" Izuku and Louise looked at each other. They giggled, and Izuku spoke up. Mr. Aizawa, these are Nori and Sora." Louise continuing, "And these are our daughters." Eri smiling, "Mr. Aizawa, I'm an older sister now." Aizawa was left confused and speechless. To be continued. That's it for this part, guys. I hope you enjoy. Leave a like, comment down below. And before I forget, please vote on the poll I'll be putting. And that said, have a good day or night. Peace.